Here I am at a dinner table with my future wife, Barbara, and to my right is one of my law school classmates, Renee Sorrell. He went on to be a securities lawyer, as I recall. This would be taken at the student residence, the graduate residences, is where the law students lived. This is a photograph of me and my future wife, Barbara, on the Bruce Trail in Caledon one winter. Law school graduation photograph. The ceremony at which I formally received my Bachelor of Laws degree and scroll was June 9th, 1975. I have zero recollection of the convocation ceremony itself, but here's the order of convocation. I redlined my name on this list of candidates for degrees. Unlike a couple of handfuls of other students graduating, I didn't receive a degree with honors. Here is myself and two of my law school colleagues. On the left is Nils Jensen. In the middle is Mike Eisen. Mike eventually went on to become general counsel for Microsoft Canada. Osgoode Hall Law School, York University, graduating class photograph, 1975. I'm third from the left in the top left corner. The interviews I went to at downtown law firms to gain a articling student position with them all resulted in dead ends, including Airden Burles, a firm that I would later become a partner in. They didn't even have the grace to offer to interview me. But here I am with three lawyers, actually four, from the firm I started articling with, and that was the firm of Luck and Harris. They were located in an office building on the east side of Kipling Avenue, where it is bisected by the 401. At the time, it was called the Mantella Building, and it may still be the Mantella Building. That's the name of a famed real estate developer. To my right is Ed Luck, who was a named partner, and to the left of him are two of my colleagues. I can't recall their name, but they were lawyers. They weren't articling students. This is taken at Ed Luck's cottage on 6 Mile Bay off Georgian Bay. Correction, it was 12 Mile Bay. And here we listed the people in the photograph. So there was Brennan, I've forgotten his first name, on the far left. The man beside Ed Luck is just described as Luck's man, so I guess he was just a general assistant, Ed Luck and me, and it says there's a Bill, can't read it, in the background. He was an articling student, Bill. I assisted Bruce Haynes, counsel to Luck and Harris, at a trial that was carried on in early June of 1975. Briefly put, a fellow by the name of Igor Guzenko was suing, amongst other people, the Harris in Luck and Harris for solicitor's negligence, which he claimed caused him to suffer some hundreds of thousands of dollars of damages. So Bruce Haynes was representing Harris, and this is a sketch I made while I was sitting there in the courtroom being bored out of my mind, and it shows Judge Goodman in the center. Below him, a couple of court officials, clerks, and to the right, court reporter, and in the box is Mr. Handing, QC, testifying. Apparently, he's a lawyer from Borden and Elliott. Just by way of background, Igor Guzenko was a Soviet defector. He worked in the Russian embassy in Ottawa in the late 40s, and he defected and carried with him a lot of information about Canadians who were consorting with the Russians, including one person who's, I think his name was Max Rose, was a member of Parliament, federal Parliament. Needless to say, he was tossed out of Parliament, and I think he went to prison as well. Guzenko went into sort of a witness protection program. It never had to work a day in his life, and so his hobby was suing lawyers. Somewhere along the way, I lost the scroll, the diploma, evidencing that I'm received a Bachelor of Laws from Osgoode. Fortunately for me, at some point in time, Osgoode decided they weren't going to give out Bachelor of Law degrees anymore. Instead, graduates would get a Juris Doctor. And they went to all the alumni and offered to supply them with a new diploma showing that they were a Juris Doctor. And I think it was free, or it was very minimal cost. So needless to say, I applied, and this is what I received, and this is now evidence of who I am, amongst other things, a Juris Doctor. At some point in June or earlier or later, I decided I was not happy at Luck and Harris. I didn't find it challenging enough, and it wasn't giving me enough experience. So I started circulating the curriculum vitae that I'd used in earlier applications, and this is the cover page. So this is the general information that I was providing folks, all quite correct. Allowing that this CV was prepared much earlier than June. It was probably prepared maybe even in December of 1974. This is all correct, although I do identify this reference under employment, Banff Springs Hotel, summer 1970. That, I think, is fanciful. I don't recall that. Yeah, these are all correct, I think, although I should say that the second semester were all Bs, so they'd make up everything down to taxation and further. My hunt for a replacement articling position led to a job offer from Macaulay Perry. Peter Harris was their tax lawyer. Just to explain, all of these people had previously been partners or associates at Thomson Rogers, which is a law firm that's still around today, at least in name. They broke away from Thomson Rogers to form their own firm, and I think at this point they were only in about their first or second year of operation. Robert Macaulay, who's listed here as, amongst others, counsel, was previously a minister of various departments in the Leslie Frost government, and he was called the minister of everything. His father had been the leader of the Conservative Party in the early 1900s. He wanted to replace Leslie Frost as Conservative leader, which would have made him Premier of the province of Ontario. There was sort of a runoff leadership contest. He didn't win. He went off into private law practice, made himself a fortune. He was a very prominent lawyer. Amongst other things, he was the lead lawyer on the incorporation of the Toyota Motor Company of Canada, or whatever it's called. Anyway, he was very politically connected. This firm was very politically connected. While I was articling at Macaulay Perry, I was a passenger in a car that T-boned another car, at the intersection of Yonge Street and York Mills Road. Uh, the other driver made an unsafe turn, and my guy couldn't stop, but it turned out to be quite a conflagration. Some passerby had stopped and pulled me out of the car before it blew up in flames. But there was a silver lining to the whole thing, because um, me and two other passengers in the car ended up suing the other driver, and we had a lawyer, and there was a settlement from the insurance company. I got $4,500, which I'd later use as a down payment on a sailboat. I was called to the bar of Ontario on March 29, 1977. This is a scan of the program, including all the folks who were not only being admitted to the bar, but were receiving various prizes. I'm not in the list. I'm on the 8th line from the top of the list of people being called to the bar. The $4,500 I got in the car crash insurance settlement I used for a down payment on a sailboat. I financed the rest. This is the sailboat. It's a 24-foot CNC sloop. We sailed it out of Port Credit Harbor. They have a private marina down there, and we had a dock right on the south end. My wife Barbara and I are shown sitting in the cockpit of the sailboat, the Grassfire. I'm shown here at the helm of the Grassfire. These are all the photographs I have of that boat and my use of it. We owned it for just a couple of years. We bought a house in 1979, and I wanted to sell the boat to use the funds to help finance the house purchase. So all in all, it was fine. It was a lot of fun. Barbara and I are shown here at St. Andrews by the Sea in New Brunswick. This was sort of the easterlymost destination in a road trip we took one summer. We met up with my friend Craig Archibald there, and we had a lot of fun with the friends he'd met. His mother was a permanent resident of St. Andrews by the Sea by that time. This is my wife Barbara's grandfather, Charles Hilmer. I believe he was mayor of the town of Oakville at one point in time. Barbara's father, Donald Hilmer. This is a family dinner in Oakville. Barbara is showing, she's a child at the time, in the bottom right-hand corner. Next to her is her mother, Margaret, and then an aunt, I think, an Ida, and then her grandmother, and Charles Hilmer, her grandfather. A wedding photograph of Barbara's father and mother, Donald Hilmer and Margaret Hilmer. Barbara and I were married on August 6, 1977. This is a photograph of us with each of our surviving parents. We had a small wedding by most standards. What we did was we rented or reserved a suite at the Royal York Hotel. It had a bedroom, and off the bedroom was a large living room in which there was a large dining room table. And we invited about, 8 or 10 friends plus our parents, and the hotel served dinner. We were allowed to bring in our own alcohol, and all in all, we were, I think, within three figures in terms of the cost when it was all over, and we had a fine time. Barbara and I are here showing sitting on two of the dining room tables with our parents in behind.